Howdy Moz fans, and welcome to another edition of Whiteboard Friday. This week, we're going to chat about how you can get SEO value from no-followed links. So in the SEO world, there are sort of these followed links. They're the normal ones that you find on almost every website, but then you can have no-followed links, which are essentially in the HTML code of a website. You will see these, the normal thing is href equals, and some website in here. If you see this rel equals nofollow, that will mean that essentially the search engines, Google, Bing, Yahoo, etc., will not count this link as passing link equity, at least certainly not in the same way that a followed link would. And so when you see these, you can see them by, you could look in the source code yourself, you could turn on the Moz bar, and use the show no follow links on the page button and see these. But the basic story is that you're not getting the same SEO value from them. But there are ways to get it. And as more and more sites, recently you might have seen in the SEO news world that Inc. and Forbes and a few other sites like them, last year was Huffington Post, started applying no follow tags to all the links that were sent that belong to articles from contributors. So if I go and write an article for Inc. today, that the links that I point out from my bio and my snippet on there, they're not going to pass any value because they have this no follow applied. So there are a bunch of types of links that use this. Social media, so Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, which is one of the reasons why you can't just boost your link profile by going to these places and leaving a bunch of links around. Comments, so from news articles or blogs or forums where there's discussion, Q&A sites, those comments, all the links in them that you leave, again, no followed. Open submission content, so places like Quora where you could write a post, or Reddit where you could write a post, or YouTube where you could upload a video and have a post and have a link. Most of those, in fact, almost all of them now, have no follows, as do the profile links that are associated, right? Your Instagram account, for example, that would be a social media one, but it's not just the pictures you post in Instagram. Your profile link is one of the only places in the Instagram platform where you actually get a real URL that you can send people to, but that is no followed on the web. And some publishers now with these less stringent publishing review systems, so places like Inc., Forbes, BuzzFeed in some cases with their sponsored posts, Huffington Post, LinkedIn's Pulse platform, a bunch of others, all use this rel nofollow. So, basic formula that we need to go to here is how do you contribute to all of these places in ways that will ultimately result in followed links, and that will provide you with SEO value. And so, we're essentially saying, I'm going to do X, that's going to bring me a no-followed link. But that no-followed link will result in this other thing happening that will then lead to a followed link. And this other thing happening can be a bunch of different things. It could be, something indirect, right? You post something with your site on one of these places. It includes a no-followed link. Someone finds it. We'll just call this guy over here. This is our friendly editor. Who works for a publication, who finds it and says, that link was actually quite useful, or the information pointed to is useful, the article is useful, your new company seems useful, whatever it is. Later, as that editor is writing, they will link over to your site, and this will be a followed link. Thus, you're getting the SEO value. You've indirectly gained SEO value, essentially through amplification of what you were sharing through your link. And Google likes this, right? They want you to use all of these places to show stuff, and then they're hoping that if people find it truly valuable, they'll pick it up, they'll link to it, and then Google can reward that. So some examples of places where you might attempt this in the early stages. These are a very small subset of what you could do, and it's going to be different for every industry and every endeavor. But Quora contributions, especially those if you have relevant or high-value credentials or very unique specific experiences, that will often get picked up by the online press. There's lots of editors and journalists and publications of all kinds that rely on interesting answers to Quora questions to use in their journalism, and then they'll cite you as a source or they'll ask you to contribute, they'll ask you for a quote, they'll point to your website, all that kind of stuff. Early comments, especially in, I know this is going to sound odd, but low popularity blogs rather than high popularity ones. Why low popularity? Because you will stand out. You're less likely to be seen as a spammer, especially if you're an authentic contributor. You don't get lost in the noise. You can create intrigue, give value, right? And that will often lead to that writer, that blogger, picking you up with followed links in subsequent posts. If you want more on this tactic, by the way, check out our Whiteboard Friday on comment marketing from last year. That was on deep dive into this topic. Number 3, following and engaging with your link targets on Twitter, especially if your link targets are heavily invested in Twitter, like journalists, B2B bloggers and contributors, and authors or people who write for lots of different publications. Doesn't have to be a published author, it can just be a writer who writes for lots of online pieces. And then sharing your related content with them or just via your Twitter account. If you're engaging with them a lot, chances are good you can get a follow back, and that will lead to a lot of followed up links with a citation. Instagram accounts. When you post images on Instagram, if you use the hashtags, hashtag marketing is kind of one of the only ways to get exposure on Instagram, but if you use hashtags that you know journalists, writers, editors, publications of any kind in your field are picking up and need, especially travel, activities, current events, stuff that's in the news, or conferences and events, many times folks will pick up those images and ask you for permission to use them. If you're willing to give it, you can earn link citations. Another important reason to associate that URL with your site so that people can get in touch with you. If you're using some of these platforms that are, completely no follow, or platforms that are open contribution and have followed links, but where we suspect Google probably doesn't count them, Medium being one of the biggest places, you can use the republishing tactic. So essentially, you're writing on your own website first, but then you're republishing on some of these other places. I'm going to go to Forbes, I'm going to publish my column on Forbes. I'm going to go to Medium, I'm going to publish in my Medium. I'm going to contribute to Huffington Post with the same piece, right? I'm republishing across these multiple platforms. And essentially you can think of this as, it's not duplicate content, you're not hurting yourself because these places are all pointing back to your original. It's technically duplicate content, but not the kind that's going to be bothersome for search engines. And you're essentially using these the same way you would use your Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, where you are pushing it out as a way to say, here, check this out if you're on these platforms, and here's the original back here. And you can do that with a full article, just like you would do, full content in RSS or full content for email subscribers, and then use those platforms for sharing and amplification to get into the hands of people who might link later. So no followed links, not a direct impact, but potentially a very powerful indirect way to get lots of good links and lots of good SEO value. All right, everyone, hope you've enjoyed this edition of Whiteboard Friday, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.